Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is exactly following this special indicator on the Bitcoin price chart, which is pointing towards much higher prices. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside the fact that Bitcoin is still potentially repeating history in the short term, playing out a short-term bearish divergence just under a critical level on the price chart, as more liquidity is building above the current price in the short term, pointing towards another short squeeze coming soon. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and right now the price of Bitcoin is still playing out this huge bull market signal on the larger time frames, and the same can be said about this weekly Bitcoin chart. Right now, looking at the weekly Bitcoin MACD, we're still seeing a lot of bullish momentum here on the larger time frames. And if we're taking a look at the 4-day time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish market. And so, as I always say, despite what happens in the short term on small time frames, when we're zooming out, looking at the big picture, at least as of right now, things are looking very, very bullish. We're clearly within a bull market right now, even if we see a little bit of a pullback in the short term along the way, which is perfectly normal to see even during a bull market, as we've seen time and time again in previous bull markets. And with that being said, getting into some news today, and over the last one day, we just saw Tether print 2 billion USDT. This is another massive mint over at Tether, printing 2 billion USDT. And so this tells us there's massive demands coming into crypto from outside of crypto, because in order for Tether to print 2 billion USDT, they have to actually back that USDT with actual US dollars in the bank. And in order to get US dollars in the bank, obviously they need that money to come into crypto in order to actually issue this USDT out into circulation. And so as of right now, considering this has just been minted at the Tether Treasury, there's a good chance that pretty much all of this is still sitting in the Tether Treasury, but over time, potentially over a matter of days or weeks, potentially, this will slowly enter into circulation into the crypto market as they're getting more basically money coming into the Tether Treasury from outside of crypto in the banks, for example. And this is important because it's providing more liquidity for the crypto market, especially on the buy side. Obviously, if there's more USDT in the market, that's more USDT that can buy crypto. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, the candlesticks is of course the Bitcoin price action, and this green line right here is the USDT market cap. And so, of course, with USDT being a stablecoin, it stays at $1 per USDT, which means if this USDT market cap is increasing, then the supply of USDT is increasing. So they're printing USDT when this is going up. And on the other hand, they're destroying USDT. They're actually burning USDT when this chart is going down. And so especially in the second half of the last bear market, in the second half of 2022, we actually saw the USDT market cap go to the downside as people were redeeming their USDT for US dollars. So they'll send their USDT into Tether in order to get their US dollars back and get that back into the banking system. So obviously money leaving the crypto ecosystem, liquidity leaving crypto and going back into banks. But what we've seen during the bull market and during most bull markets is the exact opposite. We're seeing liquidity come from outside of the crypto ecosystem, from the banks, for example, coming into crypto, which is helping to push prices upwards. And we can see that the price of Bitcoin and the USDT market cap has a very close correlation. It's obviously not one-to-one perfect, but very closely the price of Bitcoin follows the USDT market cap, as we can see right here. And so during the bear market, both of these were going to the downside together, and then they bottomed out around the same time, and then they started pumping together during early 2023, and then around the middle of 2023, they both pretty much went sideways, and then near the end of 2023, they began rising again. But what was very interesting is during most of this year, around the middle of the year, when Bitcoin was pretty much just chopping around sideways and slightly bearish for a good chunk of this year, the USDT market cap continued increasing, and especially recently continued rapidly increasing as Tether has been printing more and more USDT, as we've just seen here over the last one day. And what came next was, of course, a huge pump in the price of Bitcoin, catching up to this USDT market cap, which has been exploding to the upside. So right now, Bitcoin is also exploding to the upside, as we've seen over the last few weeks here. Bitcoin's gone from below 70,000 to nearly 100,000 in just a few weeks. And based on the USDT market cap continuing to increase, and especially once again, just over the last one day, another 2 billion USDT freshly printed added to the USDT market cap, this is pointing towards much higher Bitcoin prices coming in the somewhat short to mid-term, potentially in the coming weeks or months. And now, once again, I want to make it clear that it's not a one-to-one perfect correlation. We can see slight little divergences from time to time, but most of the time, Bitcoin usually follows along, or vice versa, the USDT market cap usually follows along with what Bitcoin is doing. Basically, a lot of the time, they're very, very correlated. And right now, USDT is continuing to explode to the upside, pointing towards higher Bitcoin prices. But remember, on small time frames here and there, we can see slight little pullbacks. That's perfectly normal to see, like what we're seeing at the moment just in the short term. But when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, things are looking very, very bullish. And if you want to make the most of this Bitcoin bull market and get set up ready to go in order to take these trading opportunities, personally, I take most of my trades over on Bybit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link below this video to make your Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is a 500 USDT position airdrop. So basically a free $500 trade as your first trade over on Bybit, but that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your Bybit account and deposit on that account. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there's also Bitfinex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitfinex, which means if you're in the US or the UK, for example, or another country where you might not be able to access Bybit, you can access Bitfinex. So I'll also leave a link to Bitfinex below this video, and if you use that link, you can get up to a 5.5k deposit bonus, and only if you use that link, you can get an exclusive 10% discount on all trading fees on the Bitfinex exchange forever, but that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your Bitfinex account. So as another option out there other than Bybit, one that you can access from the US, once again, there's Bitfinex, links down below if you want to claim those extra bonuses. But with that being said, taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin chart, and once again, right now in the short term, we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, but we should expect some support at around 94 to 95,000 approximately, based on this previous Fibonacci extension, once again, now acting as support at around 94 to 95,000. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, we also have resistance at around 100,000 to 102,000, as I've said recently here on the channel. So once again, expect resistance, expect the price to struggle in that area around 100,000 to 102,000. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin chart, in case, for example, we see a pullback further below around 94 to 95,000, in that case, in that circumstance, we should expect more support at around 89,000 approximately, based on this previous Fibonacci extension now acting as support at around 89,000. But before then, we should find some support at around 94 to 95,000 based on this level. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour time frame, obviously in the short term, the price has lost some momentum, at least for now. So technically speaking, we've already hit this first price target, which was sitting at around 96.9k approximately, but we have not hit the flagpole price target, which was sitting at around 110,000. And technically speaking, if the Bitcoin price turns around very, very soon, we can still have that technical price target play out. But at least for now, there's a good chance that we've essentially lost momentum here in the short term. So we're not necessarily playing out this specific pattern anymore. But of course, we can still eventually get to 110,000. It's just not necessarily based on this price pattern. And if we're taking a look at the short term, looking at the 2-hour time frame, right now, we're still seeing pretty similar price action as of right now to what we saw back here near the end of 2020. Because on the right hand side, this is of course the current Bitcoin price action on the 2-hour time frame, and on the left hand side, this is the Bitcoin price action on the 12-hour time frame around November, December 2020, right underneath that all important $20,000 price level, which at that point was the all-time high. And so back then, around 4 years ago from where we are right now, everyone was focusing on $20,000 per Bitcoin. That was the major psychological level that everyone was focusing on. Everyone was looking at hit $20,000. But before we finally broke out above 20,000, we played out a major bearish divergence, at least in the short term. And this played out for at least a number of days here. We actually saw a couple of short-term pullbacks and a bearish divergence before we ultimately saw a breakout. So we struggled quite a lot in the short term before eventually breaking out above that important psychological level. And right now, once again, we're seeing very similar price action. Obviously, we got very close to that massive psychological level of $100,000. Everyone's still focusing on $100,000 per Bitcoin, just like what we saw around 4 years ago. Everyone focusing on $20,000 per Bitcoin. But before we can finally break out above this psychological level, we're playing out a bit of a bearish divergence in the short term with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, which is a signal telling us that we're losing momentum in the short term due to see a bit of a pullback, maybe for a few days, before eventually we see a breakout at some point later on. And it's also important to consider the perspective of this pullback right here from the all-time high as of recording this video down to the lowest point, at least as of right now. We've only seen around a 3 to 4% pullback from high to low, at least as of right now. And so with a lot of people panicking or thinking we're seeing a major crash right now, must be very new to crypto, because if we're looking at what we saw last time around 4 years ago, this pullback, for example, was around a 16 to 17% move to the downside. And this pullback right here was still around an 11% move towards the downside. And now I'm not saying that we're going to see the exact same thing. I'm not saying we're going to see a 16% move down or an 11% move down. I'm just saying it's important to have a different perspective and not just look at this and think the price is crashing here in the short term, because Bitcoin has had much worse pullbacks even during a larger bull market. Once again, we can see short-term pullbacks along the way during a bull market. And so just because we're pulling back here in the short term under a critical level in the price chart, this does not mean the bull market is over. In fact, we've seen pretty much the exact same thing happen before around 4 years ago. And once again, when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, things are looking very, very bullish as of right now, still playing out a bull market. We're just simply seeing a bit of a short-term pullback. And so I'll be focusing on those levels of support that I just mentioned earlier. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we're still seeing more liquidity build above the current price, mainly sitting at around that 100K level, with a lot of liquidity just underneath 100K at around 99.7K. And so ultimately, once we see a confirmed breakout above $100,000 per Bitcoin, that will likely trigger another short squeeze, which is bullish for the price. That'll push the price much, much higher once we first see a breakout above that level on the chart, which would liquidate a bunch of short positions at that level. And as for downside liquidity, we don't have as much liquidity to the downside in the immediate short term compared to what we have at around $100,000. But with that being said, we still have some liquidity sitting at approximately 95,000 and some more liquidity at around 94,000 and a decent amount of liquidity at around 91,000. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.